today's meeting, which is a problem management workshop. Before I begin today and we start looking at the agenda, I think the most important question to address or to look into is that of timescales as a problem manager. The main difference between a problem manager and incident manager is in the timescales that are involved. As a problem manager, I would suggest that you'll be looking at a timescale between 3 and 6 months ahead. That is to allow you time to plan for future events and take actions to prevent problems before they arise. So picking up on the first point, the shift handover, it would be sensible to familiarise yourself with the operations shift handover, as that has the log of all of the problems that have been recorded, some of which you might not see. And on those handovers, I would also look at previous handovers, look at last year's handover, familiarise yourself with it. That'll give you a good idea if you just look around last year as to what problems came up immediately at the same time as you're looking. Then I would also look at the shift handovers from around 3 months ago. It will just give you a feel for the problems that you'd encountered and what you might encounter. Looking at these two handovers and looking at the type of problems that you see will be a very good starting point to help you determine what problems you might face in the future. Going forward from here, speak to the operators. These guys are on their coal face, as it were, and they will know about problems, and they will be able to tell you about problems they're seeing at the moment. Some of them may remember problems that they've seen last year, or they might just have little sneaky ideas about things that could be related that are causing a problem that might help save you some time and give you a path of inquiry to look into. Once you've spoken to your operators, the next thing is to download all the incidents out of your reporting tool in a CSV format. I would imagine everyone does this, but this is the first step. Look at that data in Excel. I would imagine a lot of you are already doing, but my tip is to use a data analysis tool. I've recommended to you Tableau. There could be others such as ClickView or Raw Graph or many others. But what you want to be able to do is to extract your data and then drill into your data using a tool to visualize it, as this will make your job much easier and allow you to see any trends and any problems far easier. Sometimes it's helpful just to look at the last month or so's issues. Even as a problem manager, looking over a month, it's sometimes tricky to see the wood from the trees. And the most important thing here is to enforce standards, so that when a ticket is raised, whether it is automatically raised or raised manually and the details are filled in, that certain standards are always adopted. Most ticketing systems will have a description section, and within there, my top tip is to begin the free-form description with a hashtag of what the exact nature of the problem is. Was it network? Was it CPU? Was it capacity? Was it power? Whatever that particular issue is for yourself, my top tip is to make sure that that goes at the start of any ticket. That way, when you export them and you're searching for them, it makes it far easier to find the data you're looking for. That brings us on nicely to point 4. What exactly are we looking for? Well, as problem managers, we're looking for trends, for connections, for issues that seem to occur around certain times for certain reasons, whether it's high batch volumes, high CPU volumes. As an example, having worked in retail, Christmas and Easter in the UK are very busy times, and often we can see problems because of that high volume storage issues and other issues which we can plan for because we know that Christmas and Easter will be busy. So you're looking for those same trends. And lastly, what's a very good place to look, especially on the mainframe? Anyone who's using the mainframe is a mainframe customer. The key to understanding your mainframe, the key to understanding is the SMF data that your mainframe produces. There's around 200 records produced in SMF data now, but if you can understand these records and use these records, that is the mainframe giving you all the information about all the activity that takes place on it. Using this information for problem management really will help you understand and resolve any problems. What I'm going to do now, that's my very, very brief overview of the agenda to give you some points. What we will do now is we'll open this up for discussion to the group, and what we can do is we'll pick some of the more important points that you've identified in the chat, and we'll discuss these and see if we can find ways that we can help you as a group. Just looking in the chat, I can see we have a question from Faisal, and Faisal's question is around data standards and how do we enforce them. One way of doing that is to issue a template and ask that in the freeform description, every ticket starts with a hashtag field, and in there it gives the nature of the type of problem that you're seeing, whether it be network, CPU, DASD, or any other type of issue specific to your industry. It starts with identifying the nature of the problem. And in the same way, I would go and make sure that any tickets that are being raised automatically also comply to the same standards. And then that way, when you export tickets from your remedy system, that is the way that you can ensure that you've got some kind of standards that you can search against at a glance, and it will make your job much easier. What I'm suggesting is that you tell everybody that if it's a problem with the network, the ticket starts with network. If it's a problem with a server, it starts with server. If it's a problem with CPU, you put CPU. Now, depending on the nature of your organization, these obviously change depending on the type of organization you're working in. But it doesn't matter what the nature of your organization is, the standards you imply or give to people will always be the same. And what you need to do at the start when you implement something like this is, I'm going to say, police it. In other words, you need to just make sure that people follow your rules. And if you put down network, if you put down server, if you put down CPU, if you put down DASD, wherever you put down, there's something that must be in the description to identify the nature of the problem. That will help you find all of the tickets related to that particular problem. So, Faisal, let me ask you, does that help you any in terms of what I'm saying with enforcing standards?
Okay, so actually, Andrew, my comment, or rather the issue which I face now, when we download when we do the trend analysis, we download the ticket every week, the ticket dump, and I try to categorize it. So trying to identify whether, for example, it could be a disk space issue, high CPU utilization, high memory utilization, and etc. Now, my problem is my reporting tool does not have anything like more of an intelligence where it can auto-identify such things, and neither my.
Faisal, yes. I'm just going to put my headphone in because I'm struggling to.
No problem.
A little bit muffled, so hopefully.
Okay, am I audible now?
1 second, you will be in 2 seconds. Back onto my speaker. Okay, Faisal, try now for me.
Yeah. So, okay, is it better now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So, Andrew, my question is like now when I download, it's actually, my question is a combination of points number 2 and number 3, which is downloading the incidents and enforcing the standards. So, I work with a larger volume, so I download the dump once a week, and I try to categorize it manually, whether it is like, for example, the nature of the incident is something to do with the memory utilization, CPU utilization, server reboots, server hungs, and so on. Okay, now my reporting tool is not very intelligent, that it cannot do auto categorization, and neither my ticketing tool does it have any feeds like, you need to select the category, what category does this incident fall under. So everything for me is manual. So I would actually like to know what standards I can put here to make my jobs better, and what is the best way to analyze in such a manual work.
Yeah, no problem. So first question, Faisal, what is the ticketing system you're using?
Remedy ITSM.
So Remedy follows the same, generally the same structure as what I've had shared on the screen, where you can enter within description. And I believe what you can also do is, even if the system auto-generates a ticket, you can manually edit that ticket. So if it's come from a server and someone's working on it, you can put #server at the start of the description. So you can do that within a description. And I believe there's also a section where you document what action's been taken to resolve the ticket. That becomes another searchable field. So you can also look for search terms in there. But when you're trying to run reports, you really want to make finding the data, at least if you're kind of just looking at it at a high level, you really want to be doing it from something like the description, because you can control that. And I believe that anyone should be able to edit the description to put in what the nature of it is. And in terms of when it generates the ticket, whoever is in charge of your remedy system should be able to define the categorizations that the tickets are raised under when they alert, if they're generated automatically. So there is various things that you could do to enforce these standards. And what you really need to do is you need to go back and make your case and say, hey, look, I've got this remedy system and you've given me this to analyze problems, and I'm a problem manager. In order for me to do my job, I need better categorization of what's happening. So I want anyone who raises a ticket to follow this standard, and you have a sheet of maybe 20, 30, 50 terms, and you say, whatever the nature of the problem is, I want the ticket to start with #network, #server, #CPU, #DASD, whatever the specific for your company would be. You want those standards followed. When a ticket's raised, you want to make sure that the categorization is correct. So you need to push back on those teams and say, I want these changed so that I can do better problem management. So does that help you, Faisal, or do you want me to go a stage further?
I mean, on a realistic scenario, Andrew, just to be very frank with you, I have tried doing this, but it was more of a challenging for me, because it's like, for us, if you're coming from an incident or problem or change background, you are more process oriented. You will actually follow these guidelines. you will do the changes on
Okay,
the
right. So let me stop you a second, then, Faisal. You are, and your title says it. You are a problem manager. You are not. This is the thing you need to educate people on your role. You are the manager of problems. Therefore, you need everyone else to follow your management in order to reduce problems. You are going to do that by ensuring that Remedy, when tickets are raised automatically, has categorization in place. So you need to go back to that team and push for that. Whoever is updating the tickets, you need to push for descriptions. Then what you need to do, there's no other way of doing this, I'm afraid, is you need to start naming and shaming. You say to everyone, you've got 3 weeks where I'm going to be monitoring how the tickets are done. And then what you start doing is you start saying, okay, Adam, you haven't followed the standards on 8 tickets. Ben, you haven't followed standards for 6 tickets. Charlie, your tickets are all very good. But what you're doing is you're physically going to create an email list for all the people that have raised tickets in a particular area, and you're going to tell them these are tickets that you need to improve. You give them the ticket, you show them the ticket number, and you say, look, this ticket, no good. But there is no way that people, you have to maybe help them down the road to making the right choice. And you do that by highlighting who's doing it right and who's not doing it right. So you create little email lists where you name and shame who's not doing it right, and you celebrate who's doing it well. The other thing you want to do, get the various teams on board and go up a level within your organization. So above you, Faisal, will be someone who probably has problem management and a number of other teams underneath him. Along your level, whoever is above you will have your team in problem management, but he'll have other teams. You need to speak to that person and say, this is what will help improve our problems, preventing our problems, managing our problems. This will benefit the company. This will save the company money. This will save the company time. This will save the company reputation. So you've got to sell what you're trying to achieve and why you're doing it. Then you've got to enforce and make sure people do it. And then you give people a period of time where you speak to them informally, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. But after that point, you can't keep saying, hey, you know what, you've not done this right. You've got to be a bit firmer. You're a manager. You say to them, you're not following my standards. You need to do that. I own these problems. You don't own these problems. I'm the problem manager. So it's about being a manager, Faisal, and being a bit more firm. Is that okay as an answer for you? If not, and if you want any more suggestion or idea, what I would say is we ask the other people in the group to see if they have any other suggestions that they feel would work, because this is now a group. So does
I agree
that
with you, Andrew. I think it's more of like, I need to be more aggressive on the escalation part. As you said, we need to point out who's following and who's not, and that's how we can bring it back on track. But yeah, if the other participants have actually faced a similar problem in their organization, please share the action that what was done.
Well, let's ask Rohit. Rohit?
Yeah, Andre. So basically, what we have done is we have a hierarchy process, escalation process So in case if there is some kind of improvement that we see, because we are from the process side, we see there is always some kind of improvement from the process end that we can involve. So generally, technical teams, they hesitate and they don't want to change how they work. So in those cases, we have to formally escalate it. So for example, for any technical team, there are team leads, ops managers, and then there are delivery managers. And there are forums where we can highlight these kind of issues. For example, we had a monthly connect, weekly connect, where we discussed about the issue. So first we talk to ops managers or team leads one-on-one and highlight these kind of issue. And if we don't see any kind of improvement in future, we start highlighting to the people above them. So it does take time, but generally after some time we see improvement. And there are always one or two people who will always create an issue in every team.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true. That's some great words there from Rohit. And what I'm going to do, we've got Arabatsi. I'm going to ask you the same question. Arabatsi?
Hi, Andrew.
Hi. Yes.
Yes.
So you've heard the problem. You've heard a solution. Have you got another option or anything you would add?
Yeah, so like everyone was saying, about, I think one of the most important things is to be firm, as a manager, what's expected, what you expect from, it can be application teams or whoever is responsible for working on a certain problem. You need to be very firm, and also I think it's very important to have always awareness sessions with the team. So currently how we do it on our side, so we have a very small team actually, whereby we do both incident and problem management. So we don't have like incident management team, we don't have a problem management team. So incident and problem manager. So our network team, our monitoring team, which is NOC, is the one that is mainly getting involved into incident management, right? So for problems, they only assist in raising problems. But as for driving resolution and stuff like that, I have organized a problem management committee whereby all the heads of different departments will come together to discuss whatever the problem is. Because we always encounter issues with ownership, whereby obviously on incident it's mainly just symptoms, right? And we cannot say just because I'm working in a bank, just because we are seeing issues on RIB or on mobile banking, slowness, whatever, doesn't mean the issue is on the RIB itself. It's just a symptom of the actual issue. So normally that's what we do on our side. We will have problem management committee, of which we're also having a meeting in the next hour. And I think we get to discuss quite a lot of things there if needed, like for things which are process gaps, whatever. We also have problem solving sessions which we have with business, with other business units. So we're really trying to make it a bit structured. And also we try to use the system that we have. We are using Remedy, Helix. Okay, so we are also making some fields mandatory on the ticket. So when you create a ticket, the fields which you need to populate, like it's very important to have your configuration items linked to the problem. You need to have your operational categories clearly defined, so that it can categorize tickets accordingly. If it's a payment related issues that are coming from the contact center, so it makes it really easy for us to see the trend and to identify whatever problematic configuration items. So we have what we call monthly tech quality meetings, where we obviously discuss with, as IT service management, not only just problems, not only just incidents, but we look at changes also which are caused due to incidents, changes which got created because they were resolving problems and stuff. So we do a count of total problems raised versus under review versus closed. We do reporting on problems by root cause. We look at total number of problems open against every. So yeah.
Right. Okay. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll stop you there. So I'm going to just open this back up to the group. We've got one new person joined. So at this point, it's a good place to just kind of put a comma. For Rahul's benefit, we've been looking at the need to raise incidents in our logging tool, trying to export them into a CSV file format, putting them into something like Excel, possibly Tableau, possibly another system. We've had some really great suggestions come through from Rohit, from Oravatsi, about how we can enforce standards so that it makes our job easier to look through the tickets and understand what we're seeing, and how to make sure that when we look, we've enforced the standard to make sure we can see problems easier by ensuring that maybe in a description we use something like hashtag network, hashtag server, hashtag CPU, hashtag DASD, so that we know the nature of the issue and we can see all of those issues at a glance and search for them easily. Then what we've done is we've discussed how to enforce those standards. And I'm just going to add one to this pot, just to give something that's maybe not been mentioned so far. And that is, apart from being a problem manager, that sometimes you have to be a little bit more forceful, there is the carrot and stick approach. So the stick is obviously, I'm your manager, listen to what I'm saying, I own these problems. But the carrot side of this is that you go to the teams and you say, hey, I'm trying to help you. Your guys might be called out overnight for these problems. And when they want to find a problem, or to stop someone getting called out overnight at 2 o'clock in the morning when he wants to be asleep, then if you work with me and you log your tickets in the right way, I can help prevent some of these problems because I'm a problem manager and I can predict them. And your guy who's on call will be able to see all of the issues that relate to this particular issue much, much easier. So that's just something else, is that there's two ways to get buy-in and support from people. You can obviously go down the more aggressive, more firm, I'm a manager and I'm asking you to do this. You can escalate to make sure that it happens. But the first thing that I would suggest trying is the carrot approach, and just say, hey guys, it'd be really good for your own benefit if you can follow my standards. I can help prevent some problems that you don't want calling for. That's going to free up your workload. And in addition, you might not get called out overnight now because I've stopped a problem from happening because I've seen it and I've helped plan for it. So there's just various ways you can kind of sell the use of standards. So, Rahul, I'm going to bring you in if you want to come off of mute. And what I will say is that we've been through the agenda. We're now in the audience participation section where we're just talking through if we've got any issues. Faisal asked about number 3. As far as I'm aware, Orabatsi and Rohit haven't raised anything that they wanted to ask. But if you want to ask anything now, any of you, please fire away, and we're here and we can discuss it. And as you've seen, talking to each other, we can see different ways of doing it. So Rahul, is there anything from the agenda that caught your eye that you would like maybe some more information on?
Oh, yes, Andrew. So I'm actually working as a business analyst. I'm not a problem manager. So I'm just trying to find out more information, more inputs in regards to how and what are the ways for which a problem manager should work. I'm just exploring new ideas, new concepts. So I'm just trying to be here as a listener to attain more and more information regarding these aspects. That's all.
Well, what I will do, I'll give you a brief overview of how I see a problem manager.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to do is this is the audience discussion. So if anyone else wants to add, which I'm hoping they will, here is my brief summary. A problem manager differs from an incident manager. An incident manager is dealing with issues as they arrive, hence the nature incidents. They resolve incidents. So they're looking normally maybe 24 hours, up to about 72 hours is normally an incident manager, sometimes up to a week. A problem manager is probably almost as valuable to the business because your problem manager is the person that's taking a minimum of a 3 month, and we discussed this at the start of the meeting, a minimum of 3 months, up to 6 months view on how the business runs, what activity takes place within the business, and they will look to try and plan so that any potential problems can be avoided. And in the same way, they're looking over a longer time frame as well. So not only are they looking 3 months ahead, but they may be looking over say from the current day, maybe up to 6 months, 9 months ahead. And they'll be planning and looking at how the system performs. Is there capacity, availability, storage, all of the things that you would normally see in any business. These guys will be planning to make sure that everything's going to be available. There's no showstoppers, as we call them sometimes. Then nothing's going to come along and it's going to go, oh, why didn't we think of this? And the other people that you see on this call today are probably the unsung heroes, because whilst you might have a storage team, whilst you might have a network team, whilst you have all these different teams, it's often the problem manager that will bring to the attention of the network team, the storage manager, hey, you know what, coming up in 3 months and 6 months, we're going to have an activity which will be more unusual than normal, and that has the potential to breach or take you over your planned capacity or your current availability for this resource. And that's what these guys are really good at. And sometimes if they see a problem, they're looking at connections or trends, and they're analyzing data. So they're doing a number of different functions, number of different roles. They're influencing people, they're analyzing data, but they're doing it for the protection of the business to make sure that long term there are no issues. So let's go to Faisal. Faisal, would you add anything to that list?
No, Andrew, I think you're actually covering the points pretty much where I had in mind.
Okay, and let's ask Rohit. Rohit, would you add anything to that list or anything you would suggest differently?
No, Andrew, I don't have anything else. You have covered everything.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that Orabatesi is going to agree as well. But Orabatesi, are you happy with my description, or would you add anything with that?
No, I'm happy. Thank you.
Okay, so Rahul, going back to yourself, you've got on the call, you've got some really good problem managers who are here to discuss tips and techniques. So your question, if you have a question that you don't understand about the role, in the last few minutes we have left, if you want to ask them the question that you maybe have always wanted to ask, that one last question that you think, hey, if I understood this, I would really understand the role of a problem manager, or what they do, or the value they bring. If you want to ask that question, now's the time, because it will just nicely finish off the meeting. So, Rahul, what would be your final question of these problem managers?
Oh, thanks, Andrew. So I have a quick question regarding the detailed explanation that you provided to us. My first question is regarding how do we plan what is the role of a problem manager in terms of a fixed size project? I'm not talking about a big accounts like Wells Fargo or Lloyd's Bank or Bank of America, or be it like a big account. I'm just talking about a small scale projects, like for a 3 months project, say for example, a mobile app development for a 3 months project. That's my first question. Adding to that, what's the difference between a risk analysis and the problem analysis or problem management? Risk management and the problem management. So I just want to know the practicalities in both the aspects. These are the two questions regarding.
Right. Normally, risk analysis is a slightly different thing to do with the projects. I'm just going to take this one and then open it to the group. Okay. So risk analysis is something that maybe the problem managers don't specifically normally get involved in. Risk analysis is often something that comes up during a project, which is to do with limitations that come up when a project is in development. A risk may be identified, and that risk is normally something that's relative, in that it's going to impact that particular project only. It's often local to that project, and therefore it's often handled within the project and not by problem managers. If it's a very, very big issue that comes out, then problem management would get involved. But generally, risk analysis is to do with the issues and risks that are affecting a particular development and how you go about resolving them. And if you just want to give me your other question again, I'm going to open that to the group.
You want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. My first question was regarding the role of a problem manager in a fixed size project. If the project is a 3 months project, say for example, so how fast they can attain, or they can help the team, the stakeholders, both internal as well as the external stakeholders, if that is an agile concept. So how do they act in that sort of situation for a fixed size project?
Okay, I'm going to open this up to the group, and I'm going to go around one by one. My understanding would be, in any kind of project, it's more difficult for a problem manager to get involved, because they're looking at, they almost look at historical events to plan for the future. And it's very difficult with a development to do that kind of role, because obviously there isn't the data for them to look at. But let me ask Orabatsi. Orabatsi, would you get involved with a project? Orabatsi? Let me ask Faisal whilst we wait for Orabatsi. Faisal?
Yes, so from my perspective, since problem management comes under the service operation life cycle, so for a short-term project, from my perspective, as Andrew said, you won't have actually any historical data to build any trends and to identify where are the issues that have been identified. So if we're keeping only at 3 months, and something I have to work with the present issues, it's not really, it's not really a problem, but rather than it's a mix of incident as problems. You're working on the issues as they are arriving, and you don't have any past historical data to analyze and then try to bring a fix.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do, Rahul, I'll give you one last example where problem management may get involved, and then we'll probably just close this meeting off if everyone's happy. The final thing is that on a very large project, so for example, there's a lot of projects at the moment that couple mainframe operations onto Windows Server, or a project that's running over maybe a year in length. Often there'll be smaller pieces of work that take place where impacts can be seen, and because they will have repeated time and time again, or will have happened before and then happen again, then it's possible that a problem manager may get involved. But in a project that's 3 months, there's no data really there for problem management to get involved. When a project goes over, say, 6 months and is very, very large, then sometimes problem management can help, because maybe they've seen work streams that have already run, that have come into the same problem, and they can help facilitate resolving those problems. Okay, but what you're talking about, generally, it's in terms of the time scale. 3 months at the end of development, problem management probably is not for them. You know, the project will resolve those issues. Even in Agile, if there's a lot of development taking place and there's work streams that have gone already that run into the same problem management can step in and say, hey, we know that there's going to be this problem. Have you prepared for it? We know that there's this problem. This is what's needed to be done. Problem management can say, we can speak to these people and help raise the budget, or ensure that the teams are ready to take on this extra work. What I'm going to say at this point, guys, we're very close to 12 o'clock in the UK. If anyone wants to say anything, please do. If not, if you just want to put in the chat or anything, if you're happy, or if you felt this meeting could have gone better, just let me know, and I'll close the meeting off.
Andrew, what are they here? I'm really sorry. I could hear that you were asking a question, but unfortunately I was just busy on another call, because it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon here in Qatar, and I'm on duty. So what was the question just before we close?
It was basically a very interesting question. Rahul, who's a business analyst, is looking to understand more about the nature of problem management involved in a project, and we were basically saying projects up around 3 months and under, where there's been no historical data, it's very difficult for problem management to get involved.
Please keep yourself on mute, someone. I think someone is breathing. Sorry.
I think it's Rahul. Rahul, do you want to just put yourself on mute for a second? There you go. So what we were saying is, when you've got a delivery, will problem management get involved? And as Faisal pointed out, it's very difficult for you guys to get involved because there's no data for you to look back on. There is no trends to identify. And I just mentioned to Rahul that sometimes on a very large project, where you've maybe had some work streams gone in the past that go ahead and have run into problems, sometimes in that basis, you can sometimes see a development project reach out to problem management. And then the question was, is that kind of your experience of the same issue?
Oh yes, for sure. I mean, we've had quite a lot of problems which became projects, right? Whereby, let's say, for an example, we are running on an old server, which is out of support and stuff like that, and it ends up becoming a huge project where we need to migrate to cloud or whatever. It depends on different situations. So basically we keep the ticket open. We also get involved until what we get approval for. Let's say, obviously, there's cost for whatever, upgrades, whatever that we need to do. So until we get to a phase whereby everything is approved and now the project is getting kickstarted, we will be involved. And, it's up to us as well as problem management to also engage with EPMO, which is our, project team, to engage with business in discussions. But mainly for us, I think when it comes to decision making, we don't have, we are very limited, but for us is to make sure that we take the actions, we record, we update the problem and stuff like that. So yes, we do work a lot we have a lot of problems right now, which are really projects, and they've been open for over a year, some of them.
Yeah, exactly. Well,